Well, good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you to Congresswoman Trahan for hosting this wonderful event to talk about the census and how important it is for all of us who lived in this great nation, and especially for Massachusetts. Again, my name is Roddy Mom. I will be your host this evening, and I'm honored to see all of you, all friends from near and far, for this wonderful gathering. And with that, we're going to kick off this evening. And I know we have a couple of elected officials here this evening. We have Vice Mayor Vietnam, Mr. Mayor Bill Samaras is here. We have City Manager of Chelmsford, Pat Boja. Excuse me, I announced that wrong. Give me a break. Chelmsford Town Manager Paul Cohen is here as well. Jeff Baylor, U.S. Census, is also here. And if I miss anyone, please forgive me. We have Bob from Representative Nangle's here as well to represent Nangle's office. Thank you. So in terms of the census that will take place in 2020, for all of you who don't know the background, it is quite important, especially the funding that bring into our community. Basically, we're talking about funding that's over $675 billion goes to towns, hospital, fire departments, school, roads. Roughly $16 billion came to Massachusetts in fiscal 2015 in supporting federal for improving social program, education, healthcare, housing, transportation, food, nutrition programs, social service program, and so much more goes to those in need. So, a little bit of background on the project information and the legal behind the census. The Census Bureau is bound by Title 13 of the United States U.S. Code to keep your information confidential. Under Title 13, the Census Bureau cannot release any identifiable information about you, your household, your businesses, even to law enforcement agencies. The law ensures that all your private information is never published and that your answer cannot be used against you by any government agency or court. So this is the base of this. And so, to kick off the program, I would like to invite Mr. Mayor of our great city, Bill Samaras. Please come up.
Thank you, Representative Mom. And on behalf of the City of Lowell, I want to welcome you, all of you here tonight to help us work on this very important job, the complete census count. First, I'd like to reintroduce my favorite Vice Mayor, Vietnam. He's become my partner in crime. I don't know which one of us is leading us down the wrong path, but sometimes. But no, thank you. But look, we're talking about the census, and I want to thank Congresswoman Lori Trahan for really setting this up. It's important. And I'll have to say again, just in case anybody didn't know, Lori is one of my former students. When I first started teaching, when I first started to be headmaster of Lowell High School, Lori was you president of the student government? Yeah. And I'll tell you, and I think she was president of me, okay? Because she was not afraid to come up and tell me what I was doing wrong. And there were a few things that I was doing wrong. But I knew then that she would be successful and she would make a difference in today's world. And she certainly has and certainly will. But Lori, again, thank you for setting this up. This is important. Okay. In Lowell, we're in the process of setting up the Complete Count Committee, and we're doing a lot of work trying to get people together. James, my secretary, right now is acting chair of the working group to set up the Complete Count Committee. But it's all about making sure that we get every working group together in the city, all the nonprofits, the various business partners that we have, everybody that has some type of we'll say hold in the city, everybody that wants to make sure that the city can be the best that it can be. And so therefore it requires a lot of work. Why is this census so important? It's important that we, Representative Mom talked about how much money we will get from the government when we identify how many people are in this city. But when you talk about doing this, it's a hard job. Why? Because there are certain groups afraid to talk to people coming to their doorway and saying, "Who are you? Do you live here? You know, what do you do?" And they ask you questions, and are afraid of that. And the other night, last night at the City Council, we had a vote that was a serious vote, and there was an issue that was defeated and should have been defeated, and was defeated, and we're proud that it was. But I talked about when I was the head of adult basic education. I was the part-time director. And during that time, I had something like 200 to 250 second language students coming to my program every Monday and Wednesday night. But one night I decided to ask Andrew and Sarah to come to the meeting to talk about citizenship. I was so proud of what I did. I said, here are all these people, they want to become citizens. I'm going to make that road easier. Well, that night, I think there was something like 16 people that showed up. I was truly embarrassed. I said, you know, and I went to Andrew and I said, I'm sorry. I mean, I really do have over 200 people, and I expected them here. I'm sorry I put you out. And he said, calm down. He said, I expected this. He said, Bill, they're afraid they're afraid their green card's not up to date. They're afraid of this. They're afraid of that. And they're afraid of their documentation. They don't really know who I am, if I can be trusted. Will they be deported in the country? This is over 45 years ago. So the problems that we're talking about today, we've always had these type of problems. But the issue is, how do we make government, and how do we help Lori in Congress develop rules and regulations that will allow everybody to feel that this country is a welcoming country, it's a safe country, and it's, if there are certain times you have to respond, that you're going to be supported. If someone puts upon you and you want to go to the police, you can go to the police without fear of repercussions and what have you. Like last night, we talked about, about citizenship and about safety and about immigration and immigrants. And the one thing that our police in Lowell know, that if someone commits a heinous crime, they're going to be arrested. It's as simple as that. There's nothing that's going to protect them. But if you're an immigrant, if you're someone who hasn't been declared properly, and you're stopped, the police officer, all he's going to ask for is your license and registration, not whether, nothing else about you. So what I'm trying to say is that what I expect out of this committee, besides looking and ensuring that we do have a proper count, is that we work within the community, we work with the community to build trust. If we want to be successful in this life, if we want to be successful in this community, we can talk about diversity, and we can talk about diversity being our strength, but we have to believe in it. If we don't believe in it, it's not our strength. You can't just have it as a memo or as something to put on a flag or on a back wall. You have to mean it. So once we have something like that, what we're able to do is celebrate that, but work with the population to ensure that we get a complete count. And in the long run, if we do it successfully, we're going to get the type of funding and the grants from the federal government that will help us work and support the various groups even more so. So I've sort of been a little bit all over the place. Actually, I was watching an old movie, and I almost wanted to stay home. It was a rainy day, and it was a good movie. But I also felt it was very important to be here. Simply put, I want to thank Congresswoman Trahan for all the support she's given us and for establishing this working group. I want to thank the people in Lowell who've already started working on the Complete Count Committee to put together a program to ensure that we are able to identify everyone that works in this city, everyone that lives in this city. But also in doing that, we build up trust. And by building up trust, it just allows us to really go in a completely different direction. It allows us to be able to say, we are a diverse city, we are a safe city, we are a city of the future. We are an example to the rest of the country on how to do things the right way. That's all I'm asking for, is help us do things the right way. And it's done by your own work and also by your monitoring what we do and not being afraid to speak up if we don't do it right. So on behalf of the City Council and the City of Lowell, I want to thank you for the support you're giving us. And we believe me, bottom of my heart, we appreciate every bit of it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got a couple of other candidates here tonight. Great Lieutenant School Committee person Curtis LeMay is also here. Welcome. And we also have a candidate for Lowell City Councilor, Mr. Zachary Chow, is also in the building as well. John Barr is also from the Program Manager, Census Bureau, State Division. Secretary Galvin is also here in the audience. Hopefully he'll say something in the program. So to continue, we know that this is quite important for our community as a whole. And so to move this program along, next I would like to invite Pastor Wayne Wheeler to come up to say a few words, please.
Good afternoon. Would first like to thank Congresswoman Trahan for setting up this meeting on today, and also would like to thank our mayor for his comments. I'd like to stand here today, and my words will be short, but I'd like to say, stand up and be counted. Well, I Googled that statement because I knew I wasn't that smart. I knew somebody else a lot smarter than myself was attributed to that statement. I was taught at an early age that every day you need to learn something. Well, today I learned all the people who said stand up and be counted. I also learned that the stand up and be counted was a national anthem for a white supremacist movement that I refuse to get credit to. My grandmother, who watches over me with our ancestors, instilled with me at a very young age that you have a voice and that you need to stand up and use it. Well, today I'm here to say that we need to stand up and be counted. Martin Luther King did not want to be known as a dreamer, but at the latter part of his life, he wanted to be known as the drum major for justice. Today, I stand here to tell you that the census is a very important tool for us here in Lowell. The purpose is to ensure that every person is adequately accounted for in the federal budget and the allocation of resources. Now, if we don't stand up and be counted, then they don't know that we need the resources that are coming from our government. Without a proper indicator of Lowell's multicultural residents, our allocation for those residents may, by the lack of involvement, diminish the much-needed resources that would otherwise be calculated in our government budget's allocations. Well, today we need to bring awareness, and we're going to need our elected officials to help us by generating training, awareness campaigns, social media messages that help our community understand that this census is a help for us. Also, we need help with our church leaders so that we can train them to talk to their congregations and tell them and help them demystify the purpose for the census and how this data collection tool is used. The census is now online, but many of our lower income families do not have computers in their homes or an adult in that home that has digital literacy skills to access and navigate the census. I hope today we can partner as church leaders, as community leaders, as elected officials, so that we can lend our resources so that our residents can stand up and be counted. And we can make sure that there is a public awareness campaign to reinforce to Lowell residents that it's very important that we stand up and be counted. Thank you.
I'm just going to add a little bit that I know that Lowell, we speak 69 languages, and so with that, I'm going to ask all of you to participate and help your neighbor to understand, and please share with them that it's not, the government is not here to prosecute you, and I think sometimes we do forget that some of the folks that live here, they have been through all of that horrific event in their lives. That's why, so thank you again. The next on our program, I have the Jeff Baylor, the Regional Director for the Census from the United States. I would like to invite him up to say a few words as well. Please give a warm welcome.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity. I want to thank the Congresswoman, her third event. Not that we're counting in the New York region, but certainly she's leading the way among congressional officials on hosting events like this, which just shows her leadership. So thank you very much. So again, my name is Jeff Baylor, Director of the U.S. Census Bureau's New York region, one of 6 regions we have across the country responsible for all data collection activities on our current surveys, ongoing surveys, but as well as the 2020 census. So we cover from, of course, Massachusetts first and foremost, New Jersey all the way up to Maine and Puerto Rico. That's the territory we're in charge of for the 2020 census. And being in this beautiful institution of higher learning, Congresswoman, is it okay if I assign some homework? All right, thank you. Yeah, excellent. So while the census is a national event and the Census Bureau is in charge of implementing it, it really is your census. And in order to be successful, we need your help. And there's 2 things that we could use your help on right now. First is share the information about jobs. And we have a bunch of information back there. 2 great staff, Adrian and Ray, are here to answer any questions, hand out materials, share other information about our website. But we need to get the word out about jobs. Here in the Lowell area, throughout Massachusetts, but particularly in this area, we're paying $25 an hour to work on census. The majority of these positions are for short-term, temporary operations that run anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks in length, okay? We're trying to hire people who have full-time jobs. You can work nights and weekends for 6 to 10 weeks and be extremely successful, making $25 an hour. So we ask that please help share the word that these jobs are out there. You apply, you can use your smartphone. If you don't want to listen to me right now, take out your smartphone. 2020census.gov/jobs. We have some materials in the back. Please take them, share them with anyone you know who may be interested in working. But in order for, even though the census is a national event, in order to be successful, it has to be conducted at the local level. Meaning we have to hire people to work in their own neighborhoods. We have to hire people who speak the languages of the community, who understand the cultural differences amongst the neighborhoods. So it's extremely important. So we need your help. So that's the first thing. The second homework assignment is to start the conversation about the census. And I want to reiterate some of the points that were raised by our previous speakers. Very important. And the census conversation is this: the census is safe, the census is easy, and the census is important, okay? The census is safe. Every piece of data that we collect is protected under Title 13, a federal law put in place in the 1950s, which basically states that the Census Bureau cannot release any information that would identify an individual or a household, period. Every time we release information, it's at a congressional district level, a state level, a county level, a township level, a census tract level. We can never release information that identifies an individual or a household. Local, state, federal law enforcement cannot access our data for any reason. Homeland Security, ICE, cannot access our data for any reason. Any administration in power cannot access our data for any reason, per the law. It's as simple as that. In addition, everyone who works on a census, whether you work on a 6-week operation or whether you work for 2 years or 30 years, you take an oath of confidentiality for life, meaning if you release information that identifies an individual or a household, you will be imprisoned up to 5 years, fined up to $250,000. The public's trust is the foundation of everything we do at the census, so it's important. So know that the census is safe, all right? The census is easy. 4 ways to respond this time. We're really excited about this. Online, first time ever, we'll be able to respond online. Over the phone, we've always had toll-free telephone support, but this will be the first time that you can actually call your information over the phone, all right? Both online and over the phone will be available in English and 12 non-English languages. It opens the doors to so many opportunities for our partners. If you want to fill it out on paper, because that's the way you've done it for the past 3 or 4 censuses, you will get that opportunity to do so. Every household that wants to fill it out on paper can do so. We are not pushing people to fill it out one way or the other. It's your choice. Those 3 ways we call self-response. It's the highest quality data we can ever get at the lowest possible cost. And that's going to start next March. So we need your help in getting the word out about how easy it is. What do we ask? Name, age and date of birth, your race and ethnicity, whether or not you're of Hispanic origin, tenure, whether you own or rent your home, gender, and your relationship to the first person listed on the form, such as mother, father, son, daughter. That's it. We never ask for a social security number, we never ask for bank account information, and we never ask for money. All right, a lot of scams come around during the 2020 census. If you see the word census with a request for money, it's not legit. Okay, reach out to us, we'll alert the authorities and the local media as well. Okay, so the census is easy. Lastly, the census is important. And we wouldn't be here and in this district without representation, of course. And the census data is used to reapportion the houses in Congress. All right, so it's extremely powerful. States use the data for redistricting purposes, for drawing voting precincts in school districts. And as was mentioned earlier, over $675 billion of federal funding is disseminated every year, based upon formulas that use census data. National School Lunch Program, Medicaid, Head Start, Section 8 housing, Title I grants. You think of the program, and I guarantee you it's tied to data from the Census Bureau. All right, I'll end with this. I was at a community board meeting, and one of the leaders, was talking to the group and said, think of it this way. Let's say you have a school of 100 kids at this school, but only 80 of them fill out their census form. That school is only going to get funding for 80% of their needs for the next 10 years. All right? And people say, well, that's all right, I'm going to fill out my form, it doesn't matter. Yes, it does matter. Because for every person who's undercounted, for every family who's undercounted, that neighborhood, that community, that state will lose funding for the next 10 years for extremely vital programs. So the census is important. All right, so those 2 things, pretty easy homework. Share the news about jobs, and please start the conversation. The census is safe, it's easy, and it's important. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have John Barr, Program Manager, Census Bureau from Secretary Galvin. Could you please give a warm welcome?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me today. When people think of census, I think they think of April 1st of 2020. And for the last few years, the state has been working tirelessly on different programs to put the state in a great position to succeed. We've worked on local updated census address, which is making sure that every new address in the Commonwealth is in the census database. If it's not, the form is not mailed out to that address, it's not filled out, and the money is not there. So for us, it's laying the foundation to go into this count and make sure that every person is counted. And we also worked on another project which is very important, which is early non-response follow-up, which really affects off-campus college students. So as you can imagine, the students are gone in early May. We have to make sure they're counted. It's critical to Massachusetts. So we worked on this project to make sure that blocks where off-campus college students are, people will be knocking on their doors to count them in April 9th, right around the time of April 9th. So it brings us to where we are today, which is where people are forming. I think Jeff and I were here in mid-April for the kickoff in Lowell, and it's really the grassroots effort to make sure all the trusted voices within the community are helping for people to understand what the census is all about and making sure that everyone is counted and that we do the best effort we can for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This is a great event. I thank you all for having it. One of our strongest partners is Mass Immigrant Refugee Advocacy Coalition, MIRA, which Ava Malona is the statewide chair of the State Complete Count Committee. Vasadi is here in the back of the room, and I'm sure you'll see her at different events. She gets around and she does a great job. And also, I just want to mention something about Jeff. Jeff's out of New York, and he has been great about coming to all these events in Massachusetts, and we can't thank you enough. But thank you so much. I look forward to working with all of you.
Well, I guess we have an important task in front of us. Now, this is going to be the evening that you've all been waiting for, and I just want to share a little bit with you. So I spoke with Congresswoman Trahan's husband, and he says that, Roddy, you realize she worn out at least 5 pair of shoes since she got elected. So basically, what he's saying that by the time she get home, just in the entire district alone, she got home, she basically crashed. That's the bottom line. That's what it meant. I just want all of you to know that I know that we're all supposed to work, but I don't think you're not supposed to work 24/7 like Congresswoman Trahan. I just want to let you know how proud I am to have a Congresswoman that really cared, not just one special interest or one special group, but the fact that she cared for all of you, and she's fighting the good fight to make sure that all of you are served and heard. I'm just so proud to have her as my congressman and to all of you as well. So with that, please give a warm welcome, our Congresswoman Lori Trahan.
Thank you very much. I have to say, first, it's tough to find a size 11 in that sort of cadence. So, I buy in bulk. But two, look, I derive so much of my inspiration from the people who are in this room. I mean, just by virtue of you all being here, to find out how you can help the census shows your commitment to your community. And that is just terrific to see. I mean, I haven't been in rooms this full. And, whether it's in Lawrence or Haverhill, where we've done census events, people understand how important the 10 years are, and taking this count and the impact that this data has on our communities. So I want to thank you all for being here. I'll cut right to the chase. I cannot overstate enough how important it is for each person who resides in their city or town across the state to participate in the census. I have been a student of the census since I was in college. I understand so deeply the impact that it has in a city like Lowell, in a city like Lawrence, Haverhill, but also the surrounding communities of those big cities. Jeff used the school example about imagine only getting funding for 80% of those students. Well, in the last census in 2010, in the 3rd Congressional District, we had 80% participation. And, we all thought that's a success. 80% of folks responded to the census. But this year, we're going further. Next year, we want 100%. And I'll tell you why. It makes an enormous difference in the lives of the people who live in a community. There are 300 federal programs that rely on the data derived from the census, and it guides the distribution of $800 billion each year. I mean, just think about that. $800 billion each year. So that's money we see directly here in our community. It flows to our community hospitals. It flows to our schools, our senior citizens, our police, and our fire departments. It drives these funding allocations in three major ways. First, through grants and loans based upon a formula informed by census data. And these are the programs that were already talked about: Medicaid, heating assistance, SNAP, Section 8 housing, CDBG, which so many people in this room know about intimately, the Child Care and Development Block Grant, I have to mention because I keep making eye contact with Karen, Pell Grants, and many, many more. In a single year, these programs account for over $20 billion that come to Massachusetts alone. And in the last decade, since the last census, Lowell has received $20 million just for CDBG. That goes to our parks, our infrastructure, our nonprofits, and more. So I just want to emphasize the importance of filling out this form and us all collectively helping our neighbors understand the importance. The last thing we want to see is communities that need these services the most not fill out the forms that basically dictate the funds that we so much need. It's also used for direct tax expenditure programs, which, I'll go into the weeds a little bit on this with you because it just stresses the importance. But the the housing tax credit programs, the new market tax credit program, that has proven to be a cost-effective incentive that spurs private investment in areas where access to capital can be limited. And in Lowell, the new markets tax credit has contributed to the Lowell Community Health Center, which I saw a few folks, they understand where their money comes from, UTEC, and so many other projects. And third, it's used for federal procurement programs. So when you think of the Small Business Administration and their Hub Zone and how they allocate their funds, the Hub Zone program provides small businesses and communities with additional contracting and funding opportunities, and much of the city of Lowell is in a Hub Zone, which means that those opportunities are available. Altogether, as I said, these programs represent $20 billion that come to our state each year. Filling out the form just simply translates into dollars for our community, dollars that we need, dollars that we deserve, in order to continue to grow and build a strong community for everyone. So there's been some controversy over the census that we got through, right? The Supreme Court actually decided that they were not going to put an unnecessary and politically motivated citizenship question on the form. That is, and look, that is because of the hard work of local leaders, concerned citizens, so many people like you that was elevated, and we understood the detriment that would cause to so many of our communities. But even now, with all of the confusion and the fear-mongering, the forces that benefit from an undercount are betting that we won't fill out that form. And so we're gonna need all of you once again to prove them wrong and to get folks to be very comfortable with the safety of filling out that form and the importance. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, your coworkers that when it comes to filling out the 2020 census, as Father Wheeler said, we're going to stand up and be counted. And so thank you so much for being here tonight. If you need any information on how you can get involved, if you need a beyond summer job for someone in your household, that $25 an hour is fantastic. But it's also, there's a field office in Lawrence, Massachusetts. That'll be the closest one to us here. We're going to be at this. We're going to be standing shoulder to shoulder with all of you, making sure that we get an accurate count. And I'm delighted that you all came out. I thank you all for being a part of this. And together we will stand up and be counted. Thank you.
And with that, you do have a lot of tasks in front of you, and I ask you again, please help your neighbor, help your friends. As I mentioned, there are a lot of language just in our small city of Lowell that speaks 69 languages, so please go and help Congresswoman. Thank you for getting us here again, and thank you for all your hard work for us. Guys, have a great evening. Please mingle around. Thank you.